On this show, I'm a pretty big fan of Brian DePalma. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean he's up there for me. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, like I think he's one of the most underrated directors of his time. I think when he came into the game, he's like up against Scorsese, Spielberg, Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola.
Hmm.
Like he's in that group, the film brat groups. And I think like maybe he gets a little bit overshadowed by those fucking guys who are literally some of the greatest filmmakers of all time.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
Brian De Palma is in there, and he's fucking amazing director, dude. I love his style. I love like the way he tells his stories, and just so fucking cool. Yeah. Anyway, we watched Obsession from 1976. This is an underrated gem of a picture, in my opinion.
Hmm.
This is something that flies under the radar of his filmography. When you think of Brian De Palma, you think of like Scarface, The Untouchables, Carrie, Mission Impossible,
Dressed to Kill.
Dress to Kill, yeah.
Yeah.
And even that one is like kind of like I mean it's pretty it was a hit and everything like it's mainstream. His best films are the ones from like the low key 70s 80s ones like
Yeah.
Blowout and then
Sisters.
yeah, Sisters, bro.
Yeah.
Sisters is amazing. And then we got in there the same year that Carrie came out, 1976. We got Obsession with Cliff Robertson,
And Geneviève Bujold.
Geneviève Bujold. We got Cliff Robertson, Uncle Ben in Spider-Man 1.
Yeah.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Hmm.
John Lithgow. Oh,
John
we're forgetting
Lithgow.
about John Lithgow. Fucking amazing
He's good in
dude.
this.
Like he's also in Blowout. He plays like the serial killer in Blowout. Like a great two-sided, like fucking two-faced guy character, bro.
Mhm.
Like this one, he's great in this. He's like a very benevolent character, trying to be nice with a facade of niceness.
He's so good in this, though. He really pulls it off really
Yeah,
well.
yeah. John Lithgow, I'm a fan of John Lithgow. But do you want to go into details of the narrative, what the picture's about?
Yeah, so Obsession, you follow Cliff Robertson in, I believe, New Orleans, the South. He's like the cream of the crop of the New South.
It takes place in 1959.
1959 at the beginning.
Yeah.
So what happens is he's this very, very wealthy real estate owner in New Orleans. His wife and his daughter are kidnapped from him, and they demand $500,000
Cliff
ransom.
Robertson's. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought you were talking maybe John Lithgow, but anyway, yeah.
Cliff Robertson's character, his daughter and his wife are kidnapped from him. The ransom demands $500,000. He's willing to pay it, but the police insist that no, we're not going to give the kidnappers money because if they have the money, they're going to put up more of a fight. The police convince him to use fake notes. There's this really cool shot where he's on the ferry and he throws the money over the ferry and the kidnappers get it. They bring it back to their hideout and the police follow them back to the hideout and they open it up and they realize that it's fake money. So they run away. In the pursuing chase, the car with the kidnappers crashes and Cliff Robertson's wife and daughter die in this bloody crash and he loses everything. And this haunts him for the rest of his life. We skip to like
1975.
1975 and he's still just like hung up on this guilt that he carries. He says that he killed them, you know? And him and his business partner, John Lithgow, who owns half of the company, they go to Italy to do some deal. And while in Italy, he sees a woman that looks exactly like his wife. And it's kind of a Vertigo-esque.
His dead wife, yeah. Yeah, his dead wife.
His dead wife, yeah. And it's a Vertigo-esque narrative where he falls in love with this woman and he's trying to make her become his dead wife in a way, takes her back to New Orleans from Italy, and that's where the story kind of goes.
I just want to say, like, the first part of this movie with the kidnapping scheme, which is like a lot like High and Low by Akira Kurosawa. I think that scene is fucking flawless.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it moves so good. It's so intriguing. The
Mhm.
editing is great. It's just like scene to scene. The thing about it is that, like in High and Low, that whole first part could be its own movie. Like, you could have just made that into its own movie. But it's like the first 20-30 minutes, they fit all of this stuff in. And it doesn't feel like it's super compact, like too much happened in one period. The way it moves from like setting up the characters, showing them the house, showing his partner, like setting up the world, and then the whole kidnapping scheme, and then the fucking chase and the bridge, like the classic bridge going up with the cars being chased over it, and then they can't make it, so they fall into the river and then the car explodes.
Mhm.
And that's how he just shows up and he like sees that happen. He's like, yeah, his wife and daughter are fucking in there and they're fucking dead, dude.
Yeah.
And then you skip, so it's 1959, then you skip into 1975, and we just see him, like you said, he's not over the death of he's still mourning the daughter and the mother, like 16, 15 years later. He hasn't moved on, you know.
He refuses to build anything on the plot of land that he owns in New Orleans other than a grave for his wife and daughter. And they couldn't find the bodies, so he just puts this kind of memorial there, and he refuses to build anything.
Yeah. And when he goes to Florence, he goes to the church where he met his wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then inside the church, there's a girl painting in there that looks exactly like his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the whole Vertigo narrative. He finds this girl that he fell in love with, and he's trying to like remake her to get some satisfaction or get some sort of making up someone to fill that void. And he's never like let go of this person.
Mm-hmm. A lot of twists and turns at the end. Really well done.
Yeah.
Structure-wise. I love the way the movie looks. The movie has that DePalma look to it where everything's a little fuzzy, out of focus. It kind of looks ethereal. Oh my God, it looks so good. Pretty much 2/3 of the movie has some kind of camera movement in every scene. And I love that. It flows so well. They shot the hell out of this movie.
Yeah.
And it looks really, really good.
Yeah, it looks really good. It's edited really good. We gotta talk about Bernard Herrmann's score.
Mm-hmm. So good.
This is his last movie.
Really?
Yeah, this is his last film.
Yeah, this was fucking a banger.
Yeah. So when Bernard Herrmann, so the studio wanted John Williams to do the score,
Mm-hmm.
right? DePalma really wanted Bernard Herrmann to do the score, but they were like set on John Williams. And then I think they showed a cut. Brian DePalma was like, oh, this is some temp music. And he used a theme from Vertigo in the scene. And they're like, oh, what the fuck? That's like, producers thought like, oh, that's a really good score. Like, what is that? And he's like, that's Bernard Herrmann. And they're like, oh, and he was able to sell them on Bernard Herrmann doing the score for the soundtrack for the film.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So he just took this score from Vertigo and tricked them?
Yeah. And they brought Bernard Herrmann in, and I think they did like an original score.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is heavily inspired by Vertigo, like structurally wise, aesthetic wise, the score, the way it looks, the hypnotic feel to it. It's very Hitchcock Vertigo, and we know that because also Paul Schrader and DePalma purposely were inspired by, like Paul Schrader was trying to write a script, like a Vertigo inspired script, you know?
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that. Paul Schrader, the writer of this, which he's like a legend in his own right. Apparently, Paul Schrader and DePalma had a falling out over this movie. They wouldn't talk to each other for a long time because DePalma changed the script around, because originally it was supposed to be kind of a third act where they go into the past and you see, the reveal of who the woman is that he's falling in love with.
Yeah.
But the studio scraped that and DePalma rewrote it, and Schrader never really forgave him for that.
Yeah, he like kind of disowned the script, even though he gets full like writing credit, I guess. But it was a story by DePalma and Schrader, and then Schrader actually wrote the screenplay. But I guess he kind of disowned it because originally in the script there was like some obvious problematic, controversial things going on with this movie, which is kind of like, whoa. Final reveal, you're like, whoa, like, okay, that could have gone a different way.
Yeah.
And I think like the Paul Schrader shit was like, oh no, we're actually going to show some stuff that's very like taboo, and like, we don't really know about this. Like, it's really weird, that whole thing, because it's totally possible like that was supposed to happen.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. I mean, we've had movies that have come out that are going along those lines of that kind of taboo. It's a fine line to walk. They did it very delicately, and you could tell that the studio was really putting their foot down, that like, you can't cross this line. Yeah,
like that was, we've seen some stuff with our specific Park Chan-wook film. That's what came to mind. Like,
I was thinking that too.
Yeah. Old Boy, yeah. I think that's a cool risk stuff, and stylistically, the ending is really cool. When you finally get to the like you said, the Vertigo zoom.
There's only one Vertigo zoom in the whole movie, and like I said, they shot the hell out of this. Every scene has some kind of camera movement in it, and I'm surprised they didn't do a Vertigo zoom, like a dolly zoom. Then at the very end, they finally do it when he's getting to the airport, and I think it's just kind of to pay homage to Hitchcock in another way.
Yeah. Even though the whole movie is like a Hitchcockian mystery thriller, like psychological thriller. like a lot of a few of his other, like Sisters, very, very like psycho influenced.
Mm-hmm.
Same Dressed to Kill, whole idea of like someone having psychological trauma,
Mm-hmm.
how it affects them and stuff. And
it's
like
very psycho too.
Yeah,
Norman
yeah.
Bates.
Sisters, Dressed to Kill, Blowout, Carrie, like they're all like have this Hitchcockian thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, DePalma's 70s thriller shit, inspired by Alfred Hitchcock. Our boy, Dario Argento, is thrown to the mix, you know what I mean? Because, you know, he was watching, like, he was seeing, like, the shift of, like, what was going to be popular. Because at first in his career, he was making more, like, counterculture, like, hippie stuff. And then he was kind of seeing, like, oh, no, by 1970, 1971, like, that style was dying out. And he's like, what's going to be, like, how am I going to be able to make movies now, like, that are going to be, that I'm going to get, like, funding for? And he kind of saw the writing in the wall when he watched Roman Polanski's Repulsion.
Ooh, Repulsion. That's a good movie.
Repulsion, he saw Polanski's style and he was like, oh, this is different, this is new, like we're seeing violence and with this sort of more prude Hitchcockian style we couldn't show so much because of the code. And then he saw Rosemary's Baby and he's unlocking the new horror shit. You know?
Yeah.
And then 1970 rolls around and we get Dario Argento's Bird with the Crystal Plumage, which is snappy Italian, dope, classy style. It's a Hitchcockian thriller, but we're seeing all the violence on screen. We're seeing all the blood. We're seeing like murder, like these first like murder set pieces, and that kind of opened the gates for DePalma. And he's like, okay, this is like we're gonna do some like he's gonna do some shit like that, and he's so inspired by Argento, for sure. And I think they kind of also maybe. Argento inspired DePalma, and then DePalma kind of threw it back, and there was like this sort of 1970s stylistic POVs and stuff that he was doing. Like all that POV shit that DePalma does is definitely very Argento.
Same with Roman Polanski. He does a lot of POV shit too.
Yeah.
The thing is, I really had a problem with his movie. Cliff Robertson is not the best actor. He's not Cliff really Robertson. Good at conveying emotions on his face.
Yeah.
He does get a lot better as the movie goes on. I will say that.
Yeah.
But all around, I think he's kind of the weakest actor in the whole cast. Geneviève Bujold fucking carries this movie in acting. She's so freaking good in this movie. And it's very believable. And she has to play two different roles. I don't know, like the talent is like so clearly there. Whereas I feel like Cliff Robinson kind of just has to like stand there and like maybe like slightly smile. I'm not shitting on him. I think he gets better as the movie goes on.
Yeah, he's not that great in it.
No.
Like it's really like John Lithgow. And if you haven't seen Blowout, I would highly recommend it because he's great in that. And then I would recommend Obsession as well too. I think it's super duper underrated. It's my type of movie. Like it's definitely a style over substance movie, but that's like what I'm into, dude.
Yeah, but not so much that the substance isn't there. There's still substance.
Oh yeah, there's still a narrative, which is so great about De Palma because he like balances out so well, and he just really sucks you into this dream like trippy world.